Welcome to the Village of Bartlett Committee of the Whole meeting for March 6, 2018. I call this meeting to order and ask the clerk to again call the roll.
Trustee Kimmerer?
Here.
Carbonaro?
Here.
DEYNE?
Yes.
Gabrenia?
Yes.
Hopkins?
Here.
Ranky?
Here.
President Wallace?
Here. Items under our Committee of the Whole meeting this evening are under Finance and Golf Committee. Chairman DEYNE.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have three items that we need to discuss this evening. The first one is the 2018-19 proposed budget review, and we've already reviewed that, so I think we're going to move on to the second item, which is the home rule sales tax / utility tax. And we've been talking about this for some time, and Paula, if you would be so kind.
Thank you, Trustee Rainey. About a year ago at our strategic planning session, we began the discussion about using our fund balance reserves to balance our budget. We're doing that in the proposed budget that you saw tonight, and that is certainly an acceptable practice. However, taking that approach year over year is not really a sustainable practice. And the board has taken a number of proactive steps this year regarding the budget to address that issue, including asking us to look at alternative revenue sources. And we've done that. One of the factors is, as you well know, one of the factors that makes it difficult is the state pulling back the municipal shared revenues. Todd went over that in his presentation. That one-time clawback was amended in the governor's budget proposal to become permanent for next year. Our budget reflects that. We sort of anticipated that move from the state. So we talked about a number of issues throughout the year. We talked about a food and beverage tax. We talked about increases to the levy. We talked about the different home rule taxes that were available to us. The one tax that we talked in greatest depth about was the home rule sales tax, and we looked at different percentages around that, ranging from 75 cents to $1, the 0.75% to 1%. In the latest memo that's before you, we've looked. It outlines all those deliberations that you've done over the past year, includes a provision to, or a suggestion to eliminate both the natural gas tax, utility tax, and the electricity tax, and combining that with a 1% home rule sales tax. I think that is a good combination that addresses some of the goals that you've had for a long time regarding the utility taxes, and it moves to stabilize our budget in a way going forward that has some potential for growth over the years and has a broader focus than simply just our residents. And so I know we've talked about this topic quite a bit, so I'll just leave it to your discussion and answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Paula. You know, when we first talked about this, it actually came from Trustee Hopkins many months ago. He and I were having a conversation about this, and that's when I started looking at the utility tax in depth and finding out that you know, what the amount of hours that staff has to put in issuing the rebate checks that go out. And also, I know that people have also felt this way strongly for some time about the utility tax. And I was quite impressed with the fact that there's a way that we can eliminate this utility tax in its entirety. and relieve the residents of the burden that they currently have with the utility tax. And the one thing that I liked about the 1% sales tax, and we had talked about different numbers, but tonight we're looking at the 1%, is it relieves the residents and it passes it along, the residents of Bartlett, and it affects then people that come into our village. It doesn't rest exclusively on residents in Bartlett. And starting at 1%, I think that is very fair, because we can also address, this will address some of the cuts that's happening in Springfield, and we're still lower than the other communities. But what I like most about it is relieved our residents of the utility tax, and anyone that wanted to come into the village, it would be spread out. It wouldn't just rest on the residents in the village. And the 1% is like $1, per $100 spent. And, it's almost insignificant. So that's kind of how I felt about it.
Well, I agree with some of those points. I think that the utility tax is a burden on people. I think it ranges from the type of house you live in to how much you pay. I don't think it's a fair tax. I think any way that we can eliminate the utility tax is a good thing. I think 1% home rule sales tax is lower than most of the surrounding communities, and I don't think we would be talking about a 1% sales tax if the state cut our revenue sharing by over $400,000 in the year. So, and I know last year I think we borrowed to make up for that because the state hit us without much warning in a budget year. So we didn't have much planning for that. So that's all I have to say.
I have a question, Todd. These are all budgeted guesstimates, but if we put this 1% sales tax in against our current sales from last year, do we know what kind of dollars it'll bring in, and is it going to offset the loss of the utility tax?
Can you repeat that? I don't think we heard it down here.
You wanted me to estimate what we'd receive?
Right. If we're going to use last year's sales figures to calculate what the sales tax would be, is it going to be enough to replace what we're going to lose from the utility tax, or is this just we're swapping one tax for another?
Well, the 1% we're estimating, that would be the 1.6 million, and then subtracting the utility tax of the 600,000. So that would be, we believe it would be $1 million to the positive if we did a 1%, eliminated the utility tax, and then the offsetting rebate. We have a pretty good idea of the sales tax because we receive a 1% sales tax right now, 2.4 million, but that includes grocery sales that would not be included in this, grocery and medical.
And then the state would charge us, what, 3% handling fee?
Yeah, I believe it's 2% handling fee.
Thank you.
I think,
Question.
go ahead.
How did we go from having a conversation about 0.5% to 1%?
I think primarily the conversation was around 0.5 and keeping the utility tax, if I'm not mistaken. So when we were at 0.5, it was just to shore up the 400 or 800,000 that were short because of the LGDF being cut. And this is kind of like a complete elimination of the utility tax and creating a use tax that people have a choice about.
Yeah, this is
One of the
I think that's right.
discussions I had is that, the half of 1% was basically a Band-Aid. It was to take care of the fiscal year that's coming. And I didn't want the board to be burdened with this situation again at the next budget time. So I thought the 1% is, that's why I looked at, or we had discussions about the 1%.
And I do recall from the previous conversations about the 0.5% that we were well within what our surrounding communities were. Can you just reiterate, since that's not in the packet today, what the surrounding Hanover Park, Streamwood, Bloomingdale, Schaumburg, what those are at?
Most of our neighbors have a 1 or 1.5% tax.
Are any of them lower than 1?
No.
Thank you.
And the other thing we talked about, it was like $1 on $100 spent. It's $1 and, so.
So if I'm understanding the numbers correctly, in a perfect world, when we take away what we've lost and what we're about to stop taxing, that being the utility tax, in a perfect world, would it still come out maybe $200,000 ahead? Is that the way that works? Because we've lost 800,000, we're trying to make that up, and now we're going to give back 600,000 by not taxing people, right? So it's $1.4 million in a perfect world.
Right, that's, the 800,000 shortfall was last year's budget. There's increases from last year's budget to the 18-19 budget that we just went over. That's where we came up with, or got to the 1.5 million shortfall. We were at the 800,000 shortfall, and due to increases in the proposed budget, 1.5 million. So if we add the 1 million, we would still be short. It would be much more manageable than, right, being short 1.5 million. If we budgeted to use a little over 400,000 in last year's budget before the state cut the government fund amount. A $500,000 shortfall is much more manageable with our current fund balance that we have.
And I also think that we can address that number with our spending throughout the year. We do a pretty good job of managing our spending, so I'm not as concerned about that 500,000. I think that over the course of the year that we can manage that.
Yeah, I mean, with a budget this size, we should be able to, I would think. I think from the beginning portions, and I'll hold part of my comment until I hear all their budgets, but I think you're pretty conservative on a lot of this stuff. I think your housing permits are pretty conservative. I think we'll get more revenue than that. There's certainly more building going on now than there was last year. I think you're conservative on some of the gaming revenue. These aren't big numbers, but they're significant numbers. From just the amounts of things that I heard in your beginning budget review, I think there's a $300,000 or $400,000 swing there in additional revenue, which would lead me to favor a 0.75 or something like that sales tax. Because what I don't want to do is I don't want to run into another situation where when we started 5 years ago, the general fund was $4 million over what the maximum balance was. I would rather have that well within guidelines. So if it means we use some of it to make sure it stays within guidelines, that's my preference. So I will kind of hold part of my comments until we hear the rest of the budget outlined for the other departments, but that's kind of the way I'm swinging right now. So.
But your proposed budget doesn't assume that the village is going to approve a 1% sales tax, is that correct?
That's correct. The proposed budget does not include any new revenue, nor does it anticipate a reduction of the utility tax, so it is status quo.
But it does assume the LGDF will continue to be cut.
It does presume that we will get the same amount of local distributive fund as we did this year. And it makes up that shortfall from our existing general fund fund balance, and that and taking that does keep us within our fund balance policies.
1 year. Okay. In my opinion, I think that's good discussion on this. I'm glad I hear where people are kind of thinking, but I believe that really to have a solid answer, we would need to hear the other departments' budget review and then revisit this again. That's my opinion.
All right, then the next item that we have is the water and sewer rate review. And Todd, I'm going to ask you to talk to us a little bit about the water and sewer rate review.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I touched on it a little bit in our,
Please don't be as boring as you were before.
They're numbers, Ray. You can't make them too exciting.
I'm sorry, I missed that. You wanted me to go through that presentation again?
I will fall asleep.
All right, thank you. No, this budget, we did propose, what we proposed was a 27% increase to the water rates. That is due to mainly the Lake Michigan water source. Right now, our beginning balance, our estimated fund balance at actually was $2,773,000, and we're looking at debt service of $2.5 million. Annual debt service $2.5 million once it's all said and done. That's 2 years from now. Also included in that is other capital projects, including water tower painting and annual water main improvements. So in order to catch up with that, that's why we're proposing a 20% increase to water rates this year, which would generate $2,100,000, and then the same increase, basically a 21% increase the following year, which would generate another $2,100,000. So the percentage goes down, but the amount of revenue generated in the second year would be the same, and that would get us to basically to where we'd be able to pay the debt service and continue on the capital improvements to the water mains. That would be a rate. We started out at a find my $6.36. We went up to $7.64 per thousand. This would bring us up to $9.70. Then the next year, we're looking at going from $9.70 up to $11.76. And that would be a total, all of those, the 2017, the 18, the 19, that would be an 85% increase from where we started. And when we were discussing the water sources, going with the DePage Water Commission, everything was saying the water rates are going to double. And so we feel like this is in the range. Some of these, we're only proposing to actually raise the rate this year. Then next year, we will actually see when some of these costs are finalized. But this would project us towards that, being able to pay that debt service on the water. Does that make sense? Any questions?
Do you, I know that there was some significant savings in the line and everything else. Have we factored all that in what our original costs we thought were going to be?
Yes, we have been. That's why it's, the total increase is only 85%. I know that's a lot, but it's not quite the double. We did, Dan, can you tell us how, talk about the savings as far as the DePage water side?
Right, on the DuPage transmission main, which we just had the groundbreaking on, we had favorable bids, and the routing, we were able to get relatively low-cost easements to be able to shorten the length. So we're seeing a couple million savings there, and that's where that whole number is coming down well below.
What was the whole number again for the water line and connection?
I think when we did the agreement with DuPage Water, we had them put I think it was around a $20 million loan for that transmission main.
Yeah.
Right now, it looks like that number will be closer to 15,
Yeah.
somewhere in that ballpark.
Is your debt service based on 20 or is it based on 15, Todd?
If you go to there's the attachments on the back, so go to A2. A1 is showing the fund balance of the water for, where we're going to estimate 17-18, then the proposed 18-19. Then on A2, there's the 19-20. And down in the expenditure section of the 19 to 20 projected with the 21% increase, it shows the DWC buy-in. That's $13 million buy-in, interest-free, 30 years. That will be $434,000 a year in payments. The next line is the DWC loan. That's $15 million. That's based on the line. That's based on the reduced amount of the line. We're paying, right now that rate is just over a little over 2%. That's the interest rate that the DuPage Water Commission receives on their investments plus 1%. That's what we're going to pay back. So I'm estimating that loan $975,000 a year. And then the other amount is the IEPA loans for the receiving station and the tanks, $18 million. So that would be $1,100,000 a year. That's what we're basing it on, those costs, so it is reduced.
But the buy-in obviously wouldn't change. So this $15 million in DWC loan should be closer to 12 or 11, right?
No, the buy-in was not part of the 21 million.
Okay.
Buy-in was 13 million was on top.
So your original numbers had this at 20 million
Yeah.
for debt service.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So the short answer was yes, it does include that discount.
Right. Thank you.
Okay. Or not discount, savings.
And then on the sewer side, are we ready to move on to the sewer side? The sewer side is similar. Based on the capital projects required, these rates, we're proposing to increase revenue by $1,130,000 a year. Basically, this is to cover the Devon excess flow facility, sewer rehabilitation programs, lift station upgrades, and then the improvements, eventually improvements to the Bittersweet wastewater treatment plant. 3 years of rate increases, each year, $1,130,000. Down at the bottom then would show the first year in Cook County. The current flat rate is $11.05. It would go up to $13.71 for the flat rate, 24% increase. The per 1,000 gallon, 92 cents, would go up to $1.14. So again, Cook County, 24% increases. DuPage, $13.02, up to $16.94 in the flat rate. And $2.33 per 1,000 would go up to $3.03. On the last page then of the memo shows a total water bill of 6,000 gallons. In Cook County, 26% increase. It would go up $16.34 a month for a $6,000 bill. DuPage would go up $20.48 or 28 cents, up to from $72.84 up to $93.32 for a $6,000 gallon bill. And then Kane County's is only has a lower increase as far as sewer projects. There are no major sewer projects going on in Kane County right now. We do collect a Fox River Water Reclamation District fee for Kane County residents on top of this Bartlett resident. So same thing, if you go back to A3 and A4, it shows eventually in the 2021 projected year, the fourth year. That's based on $8 million Devon excess flow, $27 million for wastewater treatment plant. And then it also includes the project back in 2014, wastewater and treatment plant. And that current annual debt service is $137,000.
So you're saying there's some light at the end of the tunnel with all this debt service?
Well, yeah, we'll figure out what the annual, it's going to start. The light will be a few years off, but yes.
Yeah. These, and just to reiterate, we discussed these rates when we originally
Yeah.
chose our water program.
Oh, yeah,
So
we-
this isn't anything
No, this
drastically
this is not.
different.
They're talking about double. It was in the newspaper. Rates are going to double. It's been out. The projected, there are other communities here between the memo and those attachments, or the A1 through A4. It shows where we're at compared to other towns. We're not at the top with water yet. Some of these towns with the asterisks are still reviewing their rates. Rates are increasing all around us. It's not just us. But we are moving up the scale here, and we will move up the scale a little bit more the second year.
Okay.
Should all be pretty comparable. We're the last ones to go to Lake Michigan water. Everybody else around us already has it.
Everybody's been paying, right, they've been paying a number of years for it.
Okay.
It seems like these proposed rates fit squarely with the estimates that we received in 2015, 2016 for what the projected rates would be.
We're a little bit
Right,
Yeah.
we're kind of there.
Yeah.
It just sounds kind of different.
The actual percentage,
Yeah.
the numbers that go with it. I just wanted, if we're done with water rates, I just wanted to go back. I overstated Chrissy's question about our neighbors and the home rule sales tax. Hanover Park, Carroll Stream, and West Chicago are at 75%.
0.75.
And how many of those have a utility tax on top of that?
I don't have that, oh, I do. Hanover Park has it, Carroll Stream does have it, and so does West Chicago.
Okay, so they're doing both.
And some of them have an additional gasoline tax.
Okay. Item number one, with your permission, we have time, we haven't been here. I'd like to go back to the proposed budget review. And the next item that would be up would be golf. We have all these people here, high-priced people from Bartlett Hills, and utilize their services tonight. So I don't have any complaining in the morning that I kept you here all night and didn't give you an opportunity to speak.
They sure complain a lot.
While we're doing that, I want to apologize and backtrack a little bit. When we were talking about the finance department, I don't think I was clear enough about the projector. And I guess just for the purposes of, keeping the train moving, I would propose that we strike the $20,000 projector.
I got that.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, it seemed like everybody was in agreement, but at the time, I didn't perceive it that way. My apologies for the disruption.
It's a good idea, trustee Ranky.
If we can save $20,000, let's go ahead and do that.
Yeah.
Also, while we're getting set up for golf, I wouldn't mind seeing the projected numbers for building permits, both residential and commercial, at our next meeting. Because I'd just really like to get an understanding of how many residential units we anticipate. Maybe a good number also, Brian, or maybe even Jim, would be, I would love to start seeing, especially during budget time, the number of houses that are for sale in Bartlett, which kind of leads us to project what the total number of transfer fees would be.
Some of them might just stay in town, and then they get it waived.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of them do, but that would be great information for me. Phil, you don't have a whole long time. This is like a fit-in to the end of the meeting, so the golf is,
Actually, I was going to ask Todd to do it for me because he had everyone so enthralled before.
Heard enough numbers from Todd. Thank you very much.
Okay, well, thank you for allowing us to present tonight. Thanks to the board. I will go over the golf portion of this. We have our three-headed monster here again, and I will go over the golf portion of the budget, and Paul and Kevin will handle their respective departments after I go very quickly here. We are an 18-hole golf course over at Bartlett Hills, a full-service golf course and banquet facility. We have averaged over about 33,500 rounds over the past 5 years. We plan on doing just about the same. We host just about every charitable outing that's related to the village here, many golf outings, tournaments, leagues, full-service practice facility, restaurant, obviously the golf simulator in the winter time to keep our golfers swinging it and bringing in some revenue in the winter. Some of our highlights for this year, we do have an 8% revenue increase over last year, and 8% over last year's budgeted expenses as well. We do plan on being very aggressive with our digital marketing this year as far as Facebook and creating a new user-friendly website. There's a lot of technology out there that we're going to be able to implement this year. We are going to be asking for a new roof on the clubhouse. We did have that in the budget last year. The number we had in there wasn't big enough, and that now needs a full replacement, and also a new a bridal suite in the locker room. Some new events for this year. We've just signed on with a Midwest Junior Golf Tour. They have a major 2-day event in July coming this year with kids from all over the country coming here for 2 days with a full day of tee time. So that's going to bring some new faces to our facility. Going forward here, like I said before, we are the provider of all our charitable outings in town here: Bartlett Chamber of Commerce, Lions Club, Hanover Township, National Night Out event, which went great last year. Congratulations to the police department again. Moving along here into our capital request page, we are again asking for the new roof. We've patched that roof several times now over the last couple of years. That's no longer working. So we're going to need to, with your approval, do that. Also asking for additional security cameras and lighting in the parking lot to make the facility safer going forward, and also the new bridal suite in the ladies' locker room area. Professional development, as you can see, has not changed. I do attend a PGA annual merchandise show in Orlando, Florida yearly, and do some seminars, clinics in this area. The show in Orlando is as much of an educational thing as anything. It is part of my certification process through the PGA of America. No new personnel for this year. Professional association detail has stayed the same. And you have your line item justifications here. If you have any questions, feel free.
Do we have any vandalism or anything over at Bartlett Hills where we would need to spend $25,000 on security cameras?
We have had some issues. You have a couple of some clubs stolen, things like that over the years, and it makes us much safer over there. Yes, for sure. Very dark over there, and it feels a little unsafe.
We had the police department's environmental crime prevention team analyze the golf course, give us recommendations on lighting and cameras. We do that for our local businesses too, and decided to take advantage of it in-house and get their expertise to kind of put together a program. We've had some vandalism, and we've had some petty theft, and then some larger things with the golf clubs. And we want our customers to feel like they can leave their equipment out and not get it ripped off.
Absolutely. Thank you.
We've also had our halfway house broken into and things like that.
And the shelter on 12.
That was several years ago, yeah, somebody, yeah.
Lit it up.
Once again, you've done a fantastic job. Bartlett Hills really has done a great job.
We appreciate your sentiments. Thank you very much.
I only hear rave reviews about our golf course, so that's good. A few questions I do have that jump out at me. I don't understand the big jump in our insurance costs under golf expenses, group insurance. Are we adding more people to more full-time employees? Because if we can avoid that at all costs, can I get an explanation for that?
We did have some personnel changes. As far as the group insurance for the golf program, we do have, basically, there's Phil and his assistant now. And then half of some, I think, part of a grounds worker is in there. So that's $52,000. Right now, that's just about 2.5 people as far as.
Yeah, it went from 47 up to an additional $7,000 in benefits year over year, an 11% increase, and I just don't understand what that is. Actually, if you go to employee group insurance expense, it went from, on one of these forms, 27,998 to 52.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. It went from basically 1.5 people up to 2.5 people, and that was due to the assistant pro, the addition of the assistant pro back a year or so ago.
Going from half to full-time, half of the employee to full employee, and then we added additional shop, right?
Well, this is, the golf program is just the pro shop, basically the pro shop. We're going to get into, there's food and beverage and a restaurant, and that's going to be, yeah, if we.
Oh, and grounds maintenance.
That's why if I go over to grounds maintenance, it isn't quite such an increase, and if I go over to food and beverage, I don't know, there's no label on this. Okay, so this is food and beverage. So I see food and beverage is a decrease in the health insurance. So it went from 62 down to 55. Is that a minus 11%? So are we saying that we just shifted somebody, we didn't increase the total? Because I don't see a total.
No, there's, as far as the whole golf fund total, they're not, there's not a grand total. They're kept in separate departments. But we did have a change. We reduced one in food and beverage, and they're split halfway between banquet and restaurant. And then in the program, we did add one.
Todd, are you going to make me do math now?
Part of the increase that you see in the group health insurance is due to an acquisition of an employee during the mid-year. So it's not necessarily apples to apples where you can compare a full year of employee to a full year the following year of an employee. Kevin lost 2 people on his staff and replaced it with 1. Is that correct, Kevin? So you're not looking at a full year cycle compared to another full year cycle. So the math isn't going to be apples to apples on that.
Okay. Just to make it easier before voting on this budget, I would like to see what the total amount of salaries all combined for the golf course is year over year, and the total amount of the group insurance totaled, everybody that works out there, year over year. So I don't have to do the math. So next time, if I can get that.
You know, if you go back to the summary page. 34. Right after, let's see. Yeah, page 3.
Page what?
3 in golf.
So this is the total.
That would be the total. It's not broken down into detail, but it is showing,
Yeah, because personnel services has benefits and everything all combined.
yep.
So that's a fairly good-sized increase. Or, the one thing I'm getting at is the thing that I think we had an issue with a while back with the golf course's profitability was too much salary and benefits, and I just don't want it to trend that way. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
So, I understand if you to offer a quality product, you have to have costs involved. But I want to make sure that we aren't just adding to be adding, because at this point, we're over where we were in personnel services in 2015, 2016. So, I mean, back in 2013, 2014, it was really high. 2012, 2013, it was really high. We got it down to a point, and now we're rocketing back up. So that's one of my concerns. That's the expense that can't go away depending on the number of people that are playing golf.
Yep, it is important to have the golf course making money.
So yeah, next time, if, at our next review, if I can get an explanation as to the people, the new people that came in or what caused that, that would be great.
Okay, we've covered the golf program. We're going to move on to the maintenance department then. Grounds.
Good evening. Starting on, we'll start with the capital for grounds department,
What page are you on?
14.
It's on page 14.
page 14.
Thank you.
Sorry. We're asking for 4 different items for the grounds maintenance. Number 1 item is a new sprayer. This is part of the vehicle replacement fund. Current unit is a 2002 unit. Got many hours and it has far exceeded its life expectancy. New technology too. New sprayers now utilize the GPS, and we'd certainly like to take advantage of that. Item 2, a new triplex mower for banks. This is also a vehicle replacement fund item, replace the 2008 John Deere model. Our current unit has accumulated over 3,000 machine hours. The safety concern, there's no ROPS, which is rollover protection. And this is a vehicle that does many steep banks and whatnot, and there's no kit for that device for this current unit either, so we'd like to replace this. Number 3, parking lot lighting, just to replace our current parking lot lights with LEDs, certainly more efficient, cost-effective. And item 4, golf course maintenance utility vehicle, replaces a 2007 unit, and just for its age and continued rotation of our oldest utility vehicles. Moving on to page 15, in professional development. The only big change here is I hired a new assistant last summer, and we'd like to get him involved in some of these local and national organizations, and we'd like to go on an education conference down in San Diego next year. On page 16, professional association detail, it's all pretty much the same. Nothing out of the ordinary, other than adding in my assistant to these organizations as well. On page 17 is line item details. Go through the numbers, they're pretty consistent to years past. If anything stands out, I'd certainly be happy to answer any questions.
comments that I've had from people that play golf there, and I've been at other courses throughout the area in other states, and I have to compliment you on the job that you do with the limited staff that you currently have at that facility, and how great you keep that golf course. It's always in good shape. Comments that I've received have all been positive, so it's something that the entire group can be extremely proud of.
Thank you. I'll pass it on.
Kevin, is it this decision to bring on the assistant more of a, like,
Much needed.
transition type, that he's trained and knows the course, and I think that's vital, right? Somebody
Absolutely
who knows the
vital.
course.
And this is a person that this is it's a career choice, somebody that wants to go into this business and stay into it as a career. I lost 2 senior grounds maintenance workers within 2 months last spring, and they have been with me for over 20 years, both of them, plus. To them, it was a job. It wasn't so much a career. They would do what they were told, but, it wasn't really, I couldn't really trust them as far as, identifying diseases and whatnot. So the person we hired is certainly educated and wants to take this on as his career, so.
Fantastic. Good to hear. It's vitally important to have the on-deck circle prepped.
He's been a big help, Brad. I can tell you that for sure.
Good.
Thank you.
Kevin, number 3, the parking lot lights, is it possible or logical to change them out to LED as they go out? Instead of, I understand being proactive and changing them to LED, but I also understand that they're very expensive, so.
They are very
them out
expensive.
until they're-
And certainly, it's something we could look into. The feasibility of having a contractor do that
Is
that
limited.
way is going to drive the cost up. So what you might be saving, is on the front end, you're going to be spending on the long run, so.
Is that something you guys will bid out, or just have a contractor come in?
We'll get pricing, we'll get quotes for it, not necessarily go out to bid, but we will get several quotes just to find out. Because it's under 20 grand, we don't have to do a formal bid, so.
Is this something Public Works could do? I know they're kind of spread thin, but
I didn't want to volunteer, Dan, but now that you mentioned it.
Thanks, Dan.
You don't want to even. Dan didn't even
Hanging
want to pick
Christmas
up a shovel
lights, and now it's LED lights, and video and sewers, and
He didn't even want to pick up a shovel today.
I think Dan's like central services.
Question, sorry, about the Golf Course Superintendents Association of America. So I recall this in previous years that just one of you went, is that right?
Correct, I've been without an assistant for 11 years, so it was only
Okay.
me going. So this will be an opportunity to take my assistant as well.
Okay, so going forward, then, you would anticipate every year this being a reoccurring expense?
I would hope to do it every year, but every other year is possible, whatever you so choose.
is there continuing education in that as well?
Correct.
Are we on to grounds maintenance now, or what that was?
Done?
I think we're on to Paul.
We'll go to food and beverage now. I'm going under personnel request. Food and beverage, starting in the restaurant first.
Phil, do you want me to do the driving range portion? No. Can you need to take a break? All right.
Under Gulf Food and Beverage Restaurant, we aren't requesting any additional personnel, where in fact, we have chosen for the upcoming year to not fill a sous chef position. And to gain on the lack of benefits and everything else, we're going to probably have to hire another hourly cook, but long-term, that's going to save overtime also. So we're all going to be all in on that, and we've got a great guy at the helm, and I think we can get away with only one in the position for the year. Under capital outlay, under restaurant, we do not have anything there. Under professional development, we have our usual Bassett and food service handling certifications for hourly employees, each being good for 3 years. They take online. There's no professional association detail under restaurant at all. Under restaurant line items, I think you'll see some of the change in the salary numbers there, a little bit adjusted in the insurance numbers based on having, anticipating not hiring that sous chef for the year coming up. Going forward then, under Gulf Food and Beverage, under banquets, we have one capital outlay request for the year. We're looking at outfitting the kitchen with a double convection oven. It's about $7,500 for a double unit. It's a new request. This oven will enable us to expand our menu choices. We'll be able to bake some bread on our own. We will be able to reduce labor. We have 8 different ovens that cook eight different ways right now that are 20 years old that need to be constantly monitored. You can put 10 items in one oven and have it all cooked evenly and done properly, and probably save 1 or 2 staff members at night to be able to go ahead and do that, plus expand the line of stuff which we're going to be able to do. So cook times will be less, and the product will be more consistent by doing that. We're just cooking on 3 regular ovens and a couple of pizza ovens that have been there for all the years, and this is probably the right way to go going forward. Under Gulf and Banquet, professional development of the same Bassett and food handling certifications. Then under the line items, you can just take a few looks over in there. There are some items that have gone up with increased costs, some increased credit card costs, and just under materials and supplies, a lot of that is older equipment that's starting to fail that we just need to replace. Then any questions about line items under banquets? If not, we go to Midway. Midway, there's really no equipment we're looking for. All the costs remain basically the same out there. Midway was a big success with especially encore sales items and beverage cart and everything else. All in all, we probably are about 2% up in the Midway, and then we probably would have been up more if we had any kind of November. Banquet sales are up about 7%, projecting a little bit more of an increase again. And restaurant sales, if you take a look back at the revenue sheets, we've gone from 105 to 136 to 140 to 154,000 last year. So that's a steady increase, looking for a couple more thousand next year. It is all. Any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Had a lot of comments about the food that's being prepared out there now. Typically, some of the other clubs that we visit in the area, it's what we call golf course food, okay? It's not the best in the world. And since you guys have taken over and upgraded that with Dustin and whatnot, I have to tell you, the food there has really been spectacular. We had the Rotary over there the other night, and they all remarked on how great the food was, how the quality of food has improved. And I encourage everyone to try Bartlett Hills for the fish fry on Friday night during Lent, because it has been outstanding. They're doing a great job. In fact, since the 3 of you guys have been there at that club, so with the changes that have been made and everything that's happening now, it's remarkable that, and I'm very honored and privileged to say that Bartlett Hills, I live near Bartlett Hills, it's in my community. And everyone talks about Bartlett Hills having to make money. Well, you know, I'll tell you something about Bartlett Hills. It's an asset to this community. And some of the people that live in this community, even if Bartlett Hills weren't making money, are proud to say that they live by Bartlett Hills. And that's what you people have brought to this club. And I want to thank you all very much for the services that you provided. I know you're compensated well for it, but you guys sure work your butts off. So thank you very much.
We appreciate
Kind
the
words,
sentiment.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Just to add to what Ray said, I agree with everything that he said, but I am very disappointed that you did not consider my resume for the sous chef. Seriously.
We can do it on, if you want to come and cook maybe over the weekend, we can kind of see how you come out.
We don't want to turn the other way. I was in for the fish fry this last Friday, and I think I had a 20-minute wait, which I thought was great. It was packed.
174 people. We went from 90 to 100 to 174 that night, and
Wow.
The food was fantastic, excellent, very pleased with it. And this is kind of ticky-tacky, but I'm just curious when I look through this, because it sticks out at me. How do our bank charge, did we start taking different credit cards? Is that why our bank charges go up almost $2,000?
The amount of people that paying with a credit card has grown exponentially. We take in very little cash now. Just about everybody pays with a credit card or a debit card.
Okay.
you know, with the two beverage cart, with the beverage carts out now, both having credit card machines, that's having a huge impact on that.
Does it increase the sales, though?
Yes,
Good.
absolutely. And the Clubhouse, too, there were days that you'd have a whole stack of money from fish fry. If you do $3,000 on that night, you may only have $500 in cash sitting in front of you. That's a huge percentage. People aren't carrying money.
Like to see that number double.
I'd like to go back to the old Iowa bars where it's cash only.
Yeah.
Or come up with some Bartlett Hills gift cards so that they can play with those.
And
Unfortunately, when they buy the gift cards, they pay for them with a credit card.
Let me see if I can ask this without going into a coughing fit.
clubs with their credit card tonight.
But how often are you evaluating the bank fees? And, because you can go to different places and get different fees. I mean,
We did this last spring. The software that we use only allows us that for golf and food and beverage for the restaurant. There's only a couple of different options out there that there's software interfaces with. So we're a little bit limited there with the software we use. But we'll certainly look into it again, for sure.
good.
Good.
Okay, Mr. President, that's it.
Thank you. Thank you guys for jumping in and finishing up golf and the grounds. That is all for our committee meeting this evening. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by trustee Kammer, seconded by trustee Hopkins. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Kammer,
Yes.
Carbonaro,
Yes.
DEYNE,
No, I think we should hang around here for a while. Yes, of course.
Cabrera,
Yes.
Hopkins,
Yes.
Ranky.
Yes.
We are adjourned.